At least 10 people have been arrested after clashes between Greek workers and police in Athens. Officers fired tear gas to disperse crowds after people marched to demand more government help with the cost of living.
Well, let's talk now to our correspondent, Evangelo Sipsas, who's in Athens for us. Evangelo, it looks quiet now. What's the story? What's been going on?
Well, now things here are quite quiet, as you mentioned, but earlier when the protesters went in front of the Greek parliament, they were met with riot police, and that's when everything happened. They stayed there for about an hour with the police telling them that they need to leave. The protesters did not listen, and that's when things happened. Then frustration was built, rocks were thrown towards the police, and petrol bombs, and then the police responded with tear gas, dispersing the crowd and running into side streets. People were arrested, over 10 people arrested. Some were injured, and a number of window shops were damaged. Now, all this was because this is a way that protesters channeled their frustration about the increasing prices in in energy and consumer goods. They're demanding that the government needs to do something and lower their taxes and increase their minimum wage, which currently stands at about $700. They say with this amount of money, we clearly cannot live. We cannot pay our rent, we cannot pay our electricity or any other utility bills as everything continues to rise.
Evgenia is feeding cats in her neighborhood. It's one of the few routines she does before heading to her morning job. But she's not sure how much longer she'll be able to continue. Earning minimum wage, she was forced to pick up a second job, but the high cost means she cannot pay her bills.
I pay €300 for my rent and another 300 to the supermarket. Right there is my first monthly wage. The second one I put towards utility bills, heating, water and electricity, but it's still not enough. I currently owe over €600 of my electricity bill, and if I don't pay it soon, they'll cut me off.
To try to deal with a massive wave of price increases, the government is subsidizing fuel, cutting sales tax for businesses and students, and has launched a so-called household basket of lower-priced staple goods. But these measures have been met with discontent as Greeks continue to feel the impact in their wallets. On Wednesday, thousands of protesters gathered to denounce a model that they say is not working for them. They are demanding more government support measures to cushion the impact of inflation. The nationwide strike forced the country's largest port of Piraeus to cancel all scheduled trips and keep ferries tied up. Greek incomes were badly affected by the decade-long financial crisis and then the pandemic. Now Greeks have to contend with 12% inflation, a 30-year high. And it's pushing many still impacted by the 2008 financial crisis into poverty.
At first it was the financial crisis, then the pandemic came. Now we have an energy crisis and high inflation. And as they say, it's because of the war in Ukraine. They keep on cutting our salaries for the good of the country, but when will it be good for me? Since 2008, I've been in a state of financial crisis.
The government is pledging to do more in the coming months, but the thousands that came out on the streets of Athens say they feel vulnerable. The Greek government increased wages last May by adding around $50 extra a month. Now they're expected to increase that further from January. But the message from unions is that people cannot wait until the new year to get help, warning if the government doesn't act soon, there'll be further protests in the weeks and months ahead.
This is the first such protest that took place here in Greece over the inflation and the high energy costs. Now, the unions are saying that it won't be the last if the government doesn't sit down with them to discuss and find a solution to cushion the impact of inflation.